Welcome back to the Uncommon Man podcast. We're going to kick off with the customary ginger shot. Let's go. Can we do it in sync this time?
All together?
Yeah. Ready? Get ready. 3, 2.
Wait, no, wait.
Come on,
mine's
hurry
not
up.
open.
Hurry up.
It's hard to
Hurry
open
up.
when you got
Hurry
a
up.
thumb
I'm just
ring.
gonna
Hurry
hit
up.
mine.
All right.
3, 2. When you got a thumb. Ready, go.
Oh, you'll never beat me. It's just pace of shot.
That was good, actually.
It's the back
I'm
of
an
the
alcoholic, don't forget.
How many shots do you reckon you had up to before you went sober?
So when I got sober, Jaeger bombs were like quite new.
Yeah.
So everybody was doing
That's how
Jaeger
old he
bombs, and we used to do spoof. You know spoof
No. Oh, yeah, with the...
with the coins in your hand,
Yeah.
and then you guess how many's in there.
Yeah.
So we used to say spoof for a Jaeger, and whoever lost had to buy the Jaegers.
Yeah.
Me and my mate Umbop. He was called Umbop because he looked like one of the lads out of Hanson.
Okay, nice.
So me and Umbop used to play spoof for a Jaeger, but you weren't allowed to say no. So it basically just meant like we used to just do them like crazy, yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, that, and I used to drink Jack Daniels,
Yeah.
like neat, a double Jack Daniels on ice.
Lovely.
Blimey.
They were the days.
How you
man.
guys feeling, lads? Sun's out? Make you
Mental
feel
Health Awareness Week.
good? Oh, yeah. Come on, Mark. Jesus.
No, I'm feeling good. The weather's back, baby.
Yeah. You
The
must
weather's
love
back
it.
and I'm back.
You must love it. You're
Outdoor
always cooking
cooking.
outside.
It was light till 9 p.m. last night. I was cooking till about 8:59.
What's your favourite thing to cook outside?
Something on the barbecue, like a Turkish kufta.
What's that?
It's usually lamb meat. I prefer lamb
Yeah.
because it's a bit more fatty, so it allows you to keep the meat moist.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to really slap the meat around for about 15 to 20 minutes. I'm not even kidding here. You've really got to go at it.
Remember that your hands are out of shot when you do that, right? So anyway,
You've
yeah.
really got to
Yeah.
work the meat, and then you form them into little. You can do them on a stick,
Yeah.
or you can just do them in little balls, and then you barbecue them and get like a bit crispy. But they're like,
All I got from that was slap the meat. That's all I got.
And tickle your balls.
Tickle your balls.
so. Yeah, since the weather's turned a bit, I've been outside every day. in
Are
the
you
evenings.
quite? Because I see you as sort of like a male Nigella Lawson in the.
That's
way
what
that
I
you
was
cook.
thinking. Yeah.
Like you're very sensual. Like
You
sometimes
are.
when you upload, like when you're making pasta, I'm like, I just know there are so many people just enjoying that video too much.
Yeah.
Like I'm kind of like, am I a little bit, attracted to you when I watch those videos?
All makes sense now.
Yeah.
Yeah, the aubergine emojis being sent.
Yeah.
It was my Nigella that said microwave, wasn't it?
Yeah,
So you pop it in the microwave. No, I'm not trying to be kind of seductive or
I don't think
provocative.
you're
I just
trying to
am
be.
naturally.
I just think you are. Yeah.
That's because you're always out in your back garden beating your meat.
Yeah. Jesus.
Right, we can cut that bit out.
Good. But okay, so lamb koftas, is that what you said?
One of my
Thing to
favourite
cook?
things.
Yeah.
But
Do
anything
you
outside.
do any cooking?
No.
at all? No, just no. Okay.
No.
When was the last thing that you cooked? And I don't mean like just like made a sandwich, but like cooked.
I cooked something once for Leah. We did like I was like I'm gonna cook her something.
Once.
Yeah.
When was that?
What was it?
I can't remember what it was. I don't remember.
You must remember.
No, it was ages ago.
Did it definitely happen? Was this like a thought?
No. I got the ingredients, bought the ingredients, followed the instructions,
Yeah.
and cooked it. Yeah, man, it was nice.
And you can't remember.
I like the
It must have
idea.
been so nice that you just completely forgot what it was.
Yeah, man. Well, no, I don't remember stuff like that, do I? No, I love the idea of cooking.
What when you say like what don't you like about it that puts you off?
No, it's not that I don't dislike any of it. I'm not against cooks.
What, the people?
Yeah.
Right.
Or the act of cooking.
Yeah.
I just it doesn't do anything for me.
Yeah.
Well, the eating does. It provides
Yeah.
nutrition.
Yeah. But that's
What
what
if
I'd
Leah
like.
wasn't there?
Who said Leah cooks it?
Or is Jimmy cooking it?
No, Leah cooks it. Well, then I'd have to. I don't know. I'd have to cook, wouldn't I?
Yeah,
I'll
put you on
put
the
stuff
spot,
in
mate.
the oven, but that's not cooking, isn't it? I'd
Like-
put what?
Like what?
Chicken
Fish
wings.
cakes or something. Chicken wings, yeah. Okay.
Chicken wings in the oven. Jeez.
Do you cook then?
I do, but I've always tried. But my methodology used to be that if I like that flavor and I like that flavor, then surely that will be okay together. But like peanut butter and like prawns don't always actually maybe. See, it works.
Little satay.
Yeah.
Peanut butter goes with anything.
Yeah. Okay. True.
Well, most
but then in
versatile ingredients
lockdown-
out there, I'd say.
Sorry.
What, peanut
Most
butter?
versatile, sweet and savoury.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
Jesus.
But in lockdown, we did this. Do you remember Mark did all the
Oh, you did the
cook-alongs.
cook-alongs, yeah.
Okay, so basically it was like people tuned in on our wellness platform and they could cook along with Mark. So he would guide you through it live.
Yeah.
So what that means is you're cooking in real time with a chef who's basically, you can answer any questions. He's showing you exactly how to do it at that point, which is way better for me than like a recipe book. So like when I'm looking at a recipe book, I kind of like lose interest, or I kind of will miss a bit, or I'll forget the timings. Whereas when you have someone there live doing it, it's just a completely different experience.
With the recipe book as well, having written a recipe book, I know what it's like. You don't want to chop down the word count, or you just can't be bothered to describe it. Whereas if you're doing a class, I can show you, this is what I mean when you sweat down your onion, or this is what I mean when your tomato sauce has the consistency I want it to be. And I think recipe books sometimes can be quite ambiguous just because you don't want to be too waffly or wordy on it.
Yeah.
Which is what I loved. Actually, I'd never, until the cook-alongs taught cooking, I just loved doing it myself. But actually ignited like a really like enjoyment of actually teaching people some of the basics of cooking, the fundamentals. That if you understand that, you can then apply it to 3 or 5 dishes that you cook. You don't need to be cooking in your garden and whacking your meat around till all hours. But I think it should be a life skill that you should be able to cook 3 or 5 dishes that you're like, I can nail that. And I know spag bowl is one for you these days that you nail.
Well, yeah, I like to have a few. Like, I think that's exactly it. Having like a few to hand is a nice thing. I don't think you necessarily have to, but like
bloody good job, because
just say, mate, when we join the cult and there's different jobs, different people, and we go off grid, you won't be in the kitchen.
I will be in there motivating.
No, you'll be the you'll be the shaman, just
hair down.
yeah.
Honestly, it does like this. It does nothing for me. Even when you're saying, it's a bit different to a recipe and you're cooking along, I'm like, honestly, it doesn't make me think, oh, that would be fun. It don't.
I think you would, if you did that, you would at least be like, okay, this is much more.
I'm sure I would get into it if like you made me do it. Yeah, but what I mean is it just
no, there's other things
it just doesn't. I don't think. I'm not thinking. Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah.
I just think. So glad I've got Leah.
And Josh, it's been a busy week for you work-wise this week.
Busy.
Very busy, mate. We're only halfway through it as well.
Yeah.
Actually, it slows down a little bit from now. But yeah, May is the busiest month in the year. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we put everything on hold and just go flat out for it.
And you feeling good managing that workload?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, I'm pretty good at like shutting off and doing what I need to do when I'm at home and stuff. My life is sort of organised that way. Do you know what I mean? Where I never work the weekends. You'll struggle to get anything out of me on the weekends, really. And the same most evenings, most nights. So
yeah.
But I love what I do as well. Yeah, so it helps, doesn't it? It's like it doesn't really feel like work when I'm like, we just went to a company, me and you went to that don't feel like work there, does it? We're meeting people that we've sort of met and known online and stuff
for the
like that.
workshop today.
Yeah.
What were you delivering on again?
The nervous system.
Oh, nice. So he was just chatting about himself the whole time.
It was fucking so good, man. It was such a good session, wasn't it?
It was good, mate.
And we got there, and Emma, who we've known for a couple of years, but online, first thing she said to Mark was, "Wow, you're small."
No, she didn't say small. She
did.
said
She
you're
went,
shorter than I
She
thought.
went, "Whoa!"
She said, you're shorter than I thought.
She went, "Whoa!"
I responded to say, that used to be many years ago when I was on the dating apps. One of the most common questions was, how tall are you? I'd say 5'8" 3/4. And then you just get ghosted all the time. So
Yeah.
it just brought up a lot of emotions for me, Emma. So
It did, yeah. I felt sorry for him because he had to sit on a couple of cushions at the front of the.
So you done the ginger joke, you done the short
Yeah.
joke. Yeah, nice.
Is everything all right? Because you're obviously deflecting your emotions onto us.
Yeah. No, I'm obviously emotionally overwhelmed,
Yeah.
so I'm deflecting it onto you. Yeah.
We were, I thought, just to bring some seriousness to this podcast today, talking about at the end, to paraphrase Josh, about the kind of almost 3 different ways of releasing stress, or tell me if I'm butchering this. Like, most people will experience or know what physical tiredness feels like, and obviously one of the best cures for that is a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
But if you've had a very cognitively busy day and you've had lots of emails, as Josh said, or like meetings or just stuff that's taxing the brain, finding ways to release stress in that way that isn't like then going home and watching a very stressful TV program, or going, I think sometimes actually also going and maybe socializing where you've got to have to chat maybe with people you don't know that well. And then the other one was around, what was it?
So it's emotional, physical, and cognitive are the 3 main
Yeah.
stresses that you're going to face on a day-to-day basis. And then if it's emotionally stressed, you need to be looking to get release. Yeah. If you're physically, then it's all about rest.
Yeah.
And then if it's cognitively, you need to look to relax. So emotional is like, you put on some music and have a bit of a cry or something like that, right? Or like exert yourself at the gym, works for a lot of people. And then when it comes to like the cognitive one, it's simple things like, I always say, don't be watching a murder mystery documentary, 4 episodes of that when your brain's really full. Know what's going on, know where you're at in terms of why you feel overwhelmed, and then do what's appropriate.
Yeah.
Otherwise you're just dragging your shit through each day all of the time.
Yeah.
I've noticed that when I am feeling a little bit emotionally stressed, or physically stressed sometimes, and when they're often that they're so linked, obviously, right? So when we've been going through a period of bad sleep because we've been doing some sleep training. He's had chicken pox, blah blah blah, and that definitely, like, when the compounding of it being like that physical stress basically can be tough. I've noticed the way that it comes out in me is I will actually just be quieter. So I won't be singing, I won't be cracking jokes as much, I'll just be quieter.
Yeah.
And then like today, like last night, we had 5.5 hours sleep of uninterrupted sleep. Now that's amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and I woke up at like 10 to 4 and I was like, I'm fucking good to go. Like, I could run a marathon right now. It felt amazing. And then this morning, obviously your mood is just like great and blah, blah, blah. But yeah, when I'm not sort of singing, and Roz notices it as well. She's like, "Oh, you all right?" Because I'm just like quieter, basically. You go quiet.
Yeah. Which for then the people that know me initially, they're like, "Is everything all right?" Like, because usually I'm quite. But actually, I also like to be, surprisingly to some people, I like to be quiet sometimes and just kind of potter around, and I like the silence to then recharge.
Yeah.
To then be really loud and gregarious.
I was reading this book, and there's a chapter on it. I wanted to ask you guys about this. I'm going to dive into a big topic now.
Oh, let's do this.
Okay,
Can you tell us what book it is first?
Okay, it's it's by Stephen Rudolph. It's Man something. We'll put it in the show notes.
Oh yeah,
but I
stick it in.
can't
You can't remember the name. That's right.
I can't remember exactly what it is. Anyway, the chapter is on the father wound.
Right.
Oh God.
I told you.
Here we go.
I told you it's a big.
Now he says, "Go." No, this is
Yeah,
good. This
yeah,
is
okay,
right
okay.
up my street, isn't
Right.
it? Yeah.
So the piece on that I was curious to ask you guys about, because in the chapter it talks about obviously thinking about what your dad went through and how that then affected their actions. And I know both of you have lost your dads and had various differing relationships with them. I was interested to know whether you've ever done that exercise or even know that much about their earlier lives and how that has affected you in your kind of post their deaths, kind of processing everything.
Do you want me to go first?
I'm happy to go first, or you can go first.
No, go on then. Yeah, you go. Yeah.
No, you go.
All right. Well, so yeah, I have done it. I know bits, and like I know a lot about my dad's story. My dad's story is he was fostered when he was about 2. I think his dad walked out before he was born, and then his mum, I think, sort of killed herself when he was young. And then he was fostered into a family from a young age, and and I think he used to walk past his dad on his way to school, and his dad was like a homeless, alcoholic drunk when he was a kid. So, like he had,
Jeez, man.
yeah, he had a horrendous childhood upbringing. Yeah, which is why I've always been able to kind of sympathize with him. Yeah, because I went on to be basically the way that he was. And I think what the reality is that we both suffered from the same thing at the time, which was untreated trauma. Yeah. So it makes sense that he became like he did. And I think sometimes to understand their story and see why they are like they are holds some use. But I think it's only some use. So in my example, you know, when it comes to me, I've got kids, and I can rationalize about my dad, right? And I can say he had a horrible life. It weren't, you know, it was nothing to do with how much he loved me. You know, he had a terrible life, and it's addiction. Addiction is complex and it's horrible, and I know all of those things to be true. And I still have a question where I'm like, why wasn't I good enough? Why didn't he? I stopped in the end. Now, that's not to say I'm better than him, and I've lost loads of mates through addiction who couldn't stop, who wanted it just as much as me and weren't any less better people. You know, they didn't care any less about the people that they love. But if I match up how I feel when I think about it, you'll always have those questions. You'll always have the question.
What do you, out of interest, I know you said you've had people who wanted it as much as you or tried just as hard, but unfortunately aren't here anymore. What do you think you had, be it internally or externally in your environment, that enabled you to move through that and not go down that same path?
Yeah. Well, it's a question I get asked a lot, right? And I don't know what the answer is. The only answer that I can give that's anywhere close to the truth is some sort of grace, as in I've been given some sort of opportunity to put a fork in the road and create change. If I knew the answer...
So by that, it's almost like a purpose. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, but the real truthful part of my brain don't know about that either.
Yeah.
Like is that a way of making sense of it? But the reality is that if I knew what it was that, say, I lost my mate James, yeah? James got sober with me. We were sober 2 years together, and then he drank again. We used to go everywhere together, and I promise you, he wanted sobriety more than me. He wanted it so bad, and I remember when it was started to get hard for him, and then he drank again. Then he killed himself just before COVID. So about 3 years ago, it got too much for him. He was in and out drinking, and then he ended it all, right? What is it in me that's different to him? If I knew it, if I knew the answer to that, addiction wouldn't exist. Because I would say, it's this. Let's fucking make sure everybody who gets addiction gets this.
Yeah.
And I don't know what it is. And
do you really truly believe there's nothing else? Like, or are you saying that out of respect to him?
No, I don't know what it is. Yeah. This is one of the things that I get a little bit concerned about when I listen to like sober communities and hear people talking about getting sober, and they're like, you know, if you want it enough and if you put the right effort in and all of that, then, you know, you don't have to drink anymore. And it ain't true. That's not true. Because I know James put in the effort. I know he wanted it enough. I know he did all of that. What is it? I'm a slightly better person than him? No. It ain't that. Do you know what I mean? Too many good people die from addiction. We don't know, you know. But look, in some ways, maybe whatever, you know, the way that their emotional pain wounded them was so painful that they weren't able to ever get over it, to ever heal it.
Yeah.
Enough to be able to live. But no, I don't say it. I'm definitely not saying it out. Well, no, I'm not saying it out of respect. I'm saying it because if there was an answer, then addiction's gone, isn't it? It doesn't.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be here anymore, and anybody that died of it would just be stupid or not that good a person. And I don't think that's true either.
There are so many contributing factors. There are so many situations that, the butterfly effect of like something could happen which could change a relationship, which could trigger something, which could. There's so many different things. I can completely see that. Yeah.
Yeah, and you got like, and don't forget, I'm 11 years sober, but it's not like I've made it. I could drink again.
You could.
Yeah, yeah, and like, so that's why I work as hard as I can, and I try and. It's similar to like you could die tomorrow. You could get hit by a bus tomorrow, so you better live your life. That's like a real strong feeling in the way that I live my life. Because I got another mate, I won't say his name. He was 12 years sober, got sober at 19, 12 years sober. Last year, drank again. After 12 years. And his problem was heroin as well as drink, but he was 12 years clean of all of them. When England got to the final of the Euros, he started having a bit of a drink here and there, controlling it. Everything was fine. Within 3 months, he was down the alleyway scoring gear.
So it was the belief that I've got this under wraps now. It was like, I'm in control of it now.
I also think about, I don't want to apportion blame, but like the support network there, who's, obviously I imagine some of that's done in secret, but like having those few drinks, if you've got some, not this, I don't want this to sound disrespectful, but if you've got a support network around you that knows what your addictions are like, they're not going to be like,
but if you're ready, if you're gonna drink, you'll set it up so you can drink, man.
But do you think someone that's got severe addictions will ever be able to just have a drink?
No. No.
There's always outlying cases, perhaps, but like
not somebody like me. Yeah. There's always, everybody's different. I don't believe you can be like me and go back to drinking normally.
Yeah.
I just don't believe it. And I believe, and I say to Leah will tell you this, if I was to drink again, even if I said I'm just doing it socially, I'm all right, she's to leave.
No, that's good. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because if I try and convince people, I'll be able to control it. It's been long enough. My life's different and all that. I will be doing that to hide the fact that I just want to get drunk again.
We wouldn't let you, mate. Wouldn't they?
Yeah, good.
You on the other hand, I'll let you drink again. Sorry? I'll let you drink again. No, I'm joking.
Even after Prague? Let's not go there.
Let's not go there.
Same question to you, Mark.
It's something I personally have explored and tried to like join dots up since we come up to. It's just been 3 years since my dad passed away. I know, so there's no one here that's really going to care, but like I know he was abused when he was young, and then he lost his dad when he was 16.
Yeah.
So he had all this kind of, I think, unanswered questions, but then also like to lose your dad when you're 16 is such a formative thing, and to have lost someone so like precious, I'm also not sure that relationship was that great. It almost sent him into a very from my perception at least, hugely passionate, but sometimes quite like suffocatingly intense parent that could then flip on a switch if he felt rejected or my parents were divorced as well, so it was like if whenever I had to go to my mum's, it was always like some guilt tripping, or like I was a young kid, like maybe I'm more of a mummy's boy, like if I wanted to see my mum, there was also then those intense things. But now like when I reflect on them, at the time it's like, fuck, this is like, what have I done wrong and all these things. And that's where my people pleasing has come from, because when you're young, like I remember one time, just as like an open share, we were choosing my GCSEs, because I've thought about this often excuse me, the last couple of years of like, why do I try to people please? Why do I care? Why do I get this intense worry if I do something that's against what I think someone else wants? And I think it roots back to this particular event where choosing my GCSEs, I wanted to pick some academic ones. My dad wanted me to do a certain topic, which I didn't think was that academic.
What did he want you to do?
He wanted me to do there's DT, but there was this other one called
Home economics or something.
No, it was like ASDAN or something like. It was like just not the type of subject I wanted to do. It was like not quite DT. It was like very like practical things that I just didn't have any interest in. And I remember him saying to me, "If you ignore my advice, I will ignore you."
Oh God.
And I was 14.
Yeah.
And I realised actually quite suddenly recently that I was like, I think that's a big root of it. To be like, if you go against what is going to make me happy, then there'll be consequences of it. And that was a big realisation for me, probably only quite recently, to understand why I can be like I am, which I had never really thought about. And that's also, to go off on another tangent, like made me really conscious of when hopefully I become a father, of being really careful about how you talk to your kids. Like that was one of the things my brother and sister and I have often joked about. That I think there's a thing in parenting. My sister says is like, as a parent, you're supposed to like create this safe box for your kids' emotions to like be in, but you're constantly like the safe box. Whereas with my dad, it was kind of the opposite. Me, my brother, and my sister were this box for his emotions, because I think there's a big thing in psychology about if you have a big loss or trauma at a certain age, you can sometimes get stuck in that time in your mind. My dad obviously lost his dad when he was 16, and I think emotionally some of him was stuck there in terms of being able to deal with emotions, which made my childhood quite tumultuous, up and down. And so I've often craved the opposite of that. I've often craved stability throughout my life. And so I'll go like, in some ways, like out of my way to try and have like a nice stable life, like 2.4 children, home, all these sorts of things that are like kind of calming for me. But that's again only something I've realised the last couple of years, because when your dad's alive, you don't really necessarily reflect too much on that relationship. But now I kind of have time to process it and talk to people, and yeah, we've got a bit deep there.
Well, yeah, that's where I wanted you to go. That's interesting. So so that line that he said to you,
I've always remembered it.
You've always remembered. I was going to say, was it something that you were like, oh shit, I remember when he said that to me, or it's always just rang in your head?
It's always rang in my head, and it also always, I know the feeling that when that was said to me, of like that gut wrenching, like in your stomach, which I still get now when if I feel like I've upset someone or said the wrong thing. But I never really connected the dots as to the people pleasing element to it, or necessarily the root of where it come from.
That makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And do you think it's from that moment? Is that what you're saying? Or?
I think so. Well, the relationship was quite complex because I think my dad felt a lot of guilt. My parents were divorced. My dad felt a lot of guilt for his part in the divorce, and therefore the guilt manifested itself as like anger and in some ways a bit of manipulation of like, so you never quite knew where you stood, and then you would mimic what the behaviours
and I think emotional manipulation from parent to child is very, very common, right? If you just take away the nastiness that we sometimes put to the word manipulation, and just think of when you manipulate somebody's leg to stretch their muscle, you're manipulating it in a certain way. I think parents do that a lot with kids, yeah? So to say our parents were quite manipulative or would manipulate us quite a bit, people think, oh, fucking hell, I can't say that about my parent. But actually, I think it's true of a lot of parents.
Yeah.
And like, you think if when perhaps that's like when he said what he said to you about if you go against me, I'll ignore you. Yeah. That probably epitomized the way that he made you feel. And that's the thing, that's that feeling that happens. It probably brings back the fact that you would have been experiencing that quite a lot. Do you know what I mean? As a child, if that's what they were like.
But I don't necessarily believe he thought about the consequence of those words. He just said it, not thinking, obviously Mark's going to be talking about it on a podcast in 19 years time.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think he just thought it was an off the cuff comment, but I just remember it so vividly.
It's amazing, isn't it? The impact you can have as a parent. Like, I've become obviously much more aware of it over the last few years, just having kids myself, and I think Ros and I talk about it a lot. Try as much as we can to just like, when we feel that emotion come up, like taking that space, creating that space. It's just a mindfulness thing, right? We learned it from Johnny Say back in the day about, you have that emotional response or that trigger, and then just give it space before you actually react. And it's amazing what that extra 30 seconds of just space can do. And when you're overly emotive and it's like coming across in all these ways, we're kind of going back into that kind of like older part of our brain, right? Where it's just constantly like reacting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as a parent myself as well, though, I think like the best thing you can do is have the ability to revisit, because I mess up as a dad a lot.
Yeah.
Like I say things that I, lose my shit and, raise my voice when I don't want to, say things I wish I never said, be grumpy and horrible to the kids. And like, I do it. That's the truth. Yeah. And rather than sort of shame myself for that, although I do still do that. Yeah. Sometimes I lay in bed just thinking, I wish I could be better at this. But having the ability to be able to revisit, that's what I lacked in my life. Yeah.
When you say revisit, you mean having that conversation with
going back to the kids and saying,
yeah.
you know what, yesterday when I was a dick yesterday when I said that.
Yeah.
And
I
like,
think that's so big.
it's nothing to do with you. I was having a bad day. I'm sorry. I know I can be grumpy. Like what, I try and do that. I say to my kids, I know I can be grumpy. I know I can be, it must be horrible for you. Is it horrible for you? And then sometimes they say, yeah. And then I have to like, all right, I'm trying. I try not to be
What
like
a great
that.
lesson for them though, to see like.
It's more than one lesson. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saying
They
like
talk
you-
about
yeah.
it's like I read a parenting book called The Book You Wish Your Parents Had Read.
Yeah.
And they talk about rupture and repair, and they say how rupture is inevitable as
Yeah.
a parent. Exactly what you're saying. You're going to make mistakes. There's going to be a day when your work's been super busy and you do react emotionally and you say something that you regret, and that the kid did feel some pain around in some degree. But then it's how do you repair that, and how do you acknowledge that, and how do you like have that conversation, which is exactly what you did exactly. So it's like, yeah, I think that's a kind of a great example. Definitely because it teaches you to be able to hold your hands up in life when you have done something wrong, and people massively respect you for that. They massively respect you, whether it's in business or whether it's at home or with friends. If you can like genuinely apologize and have that conversation, and both, like you said, talk about how did that make you feel, like tell me,
Yeah.
because they need to get that off their chest.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's still in there a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you said sorry, Dad, but you haven't really listened to me
Yeah.
in terms of how it felt.
Yeah.
So like giving them the space to be able to do that, I think it's massively powerful. I like it, Josh. I'm going to take that on board.
I think that's what a lot of people lack, by the way, in their childhood, is people to hold space for them for all their difficult emotions. Because nobody does that for kids. By the way, I think we're a fucking disgrace in our country, the way that we treat families that have got young children, the way that we support young children. Like, I think you should judge any demographic of people by how they treat their children. And I think Western society, like in the UK particularly, I think we are an absolute disgrace with what we give in terms of support for our children.
Support for the children or support for the
families, children.
Right.
If you look at like the countries like Norway and that, what do you call them, the
Nordic.
Scandinavians.
Yeah, Scandinavian countries. Yeah, they're way more built around like, they don't push the kids to go to school full time until very late. They support both parents because they know how important it is to have the kids that are with their parents for as long as possible. Schooling, even when they start, is very slow. There's lots of breaks and all that because they know they're the most important years.
Yeah.
All we give a shit about is making sure people are paying their taxes, making sure no one's on benefits, and we're getting them back as quickly as we can. Like honestly, I think it's an absolute. I think it's the root of so much of what we see wrong with our society. Right, I do think that, and I think a lot of kids, to come back to the point I was making, a lot of kids lack having an adult in their life to validate their difficult emotions. Because most parents will tell their kids, "You're all right, don't worry, don't be silly, everything's going to be fine." And if it's an emotion that the parent's something to do with the parent, a kid ain't got another adult to go, "Fucking sometimes my dad shouts a bit. I'll get a bit scared when he shouts." But like if you can't do that with your mum, if you haven't got two parents in the house, which loads of people ain't, who are you doing it with? In Western culture in today, a lot of people don't live anywhere near any other extended family. You ain't doing it with anyone. Teachers are striking because they're not paid enough and they're under all this academic pressure. If you don't have another parent in the house, there's a very likely chance in today's world you got no one to go to with your difficult stuff. No one.
Were you able to go to your mum in those difficult times?
No. And no child in my situation would.
Yeah.
Even, you know, and that's not a slant on my mum. My mum is dealing with my dad's addiction.
Yeah.
She's wrapped up in it herself. She's caught up in it. Some of the stuff I needed to talk about was perhaps at times feeling like my mum had let me down. Not because she's a bad mum or because because she's a human being. But we live in a world today where still we promote this fucking weird dysfunctional, don't tell anyone what's going on in your house.
And as a child, I assume you're almost trying to protect your mum a little.
Of course, I don't want to burden my mum with my shit when I'm a kid. I saw her struggle, I saw her pain. I don't want to bring my pain to my mum. So what do? I keep it all in. And that's why, like, I try and encourage my kids. I say to my kids, if ever I do and I do say this to them, if ever I do anything in this house that makes you feel uncomfortable and that you don't like, you find another adult to talk to about it and you tell them exactly what I'm doing. And if you're worried and you don't know how to come to me, you tell your granddad, yeah? You tell your nan, right? You tell him. You say, Dad's doing this and I don't like it. And if you don't want to come to me, you tell them to come to me. That's healthy, yeah? That's healthy because I know they could go and tell any adult. They could go to a teacher at school and say, Dad's doing this. The teacher could come to me and I've got nothing to hide. Yeah? I might have to go, yeah, all right, I'm not, you know, I shout sometimes and I don't, or whatever. But we live in a dysfunctional society. We're all terrified of like what people would think if they knew what we're really like and all of our shadow parts that come out in the house. And you know, families are under so much stress all of the time. And over the last 13 years, we've completely ripped all funding for children's services away. Completely ripped it away. It doesn't exist barely anymore. So like, when we've got all these angry kids that are now disguised as adults, we're all scratching our heads. Everyone's like, oh, fucking knife crime's on the rise, you know, everyone's fighting at football again. It ain't no coincidence to me. I think, well, of course they fucking are. Because look at the environment that we've created. I fucking love it when you get me ranting.
Yeah. Just let him flow.
Not hard.
Let him go. I can see him looking at me like he's gone.
Like, wind up
He's
the
gone
monkey.
here. He's gone here. And fuck the Tories.
I think like a big, a big part of, like, we compare Scandinavian countries, but also more of like countries in the East have a larger emphasis on like family units until the children are much older in life. Like in the UK, I think we almost have this perception that a kid, when they get to 12, 13, 14, let them like go, they're out and like socializing with other people, and there's less emphasis on keeping a nice strong family unit. I know countries in the East where children now, we look at it weirdly in the West, but children now, even when they're like 12, 13, 14, all sleep in the same room as mum and dad.
Talk about this, yeah.
And like there's something very comforting, I think, for a child, even as you get older into like adolescence, to know you've got that secure environment around you. And then you've got your grandparents, like you were mentioning there, you can go and talk to your grandparents. Like I think a lot of people are losing those social connections, and like in terms of looking after our mental welfare, like to bring it back to my experience, that's why I'm a massive believer, and I hope this continues when I have my own family, of like in the evening with your partner, your family, whoever it is, we have like a no phones rule, sit down, we have our meal, talk about how your day was, what's gone on, have a download, and we talk about all sorts of things about my emotions. It might be light-hearted stuff, but that for like forming connections and bonds rather than just dinner on your phones, get through this, get on the sofa and watch TV. Like family units are just like shrunk now, where often it's the kids get to a certain age and then it's kind of just like everyone's doing their own thing, and then when things start to fall apart, if you haven't got a very strong connection with other members of your family, it can all spiral quite quickly.
Exactly, and I think why do we exist as humans, as human beings, right? When we bring other people, when we bring children into this world, our whole life should be focused on nurturing, loving, and helping this little thing become who it's supposed to be. And Western culture is not set up for that at all.
And you don't know.
Most families, if there's two parents there, they both got to get back to work as quickly as they can. So you can't sleep in the same bed and all that, because I've got to fucking get back to work. I've got to earn the money. I've got to pay the bills. Yeah, and then by the way, when you're like literally from the moment you're born in Western culture, it's not let's nurture you and help you to become everything you're supposed to be. It's there's a system here. Fucking, we got to go to work, so you got to go there, and that's how it's got to be. You ain't going to be with your parents. You're going to be with you're going to be looked after by probably 1 or 2 people and like 30 kids. And that ain't supposed to be like that at all, yeah? And then, by the way, when you're 5 years old, we're going to put you in a fucking room every day, all day, every day, and we're going to say to you, sat down, you are of no value. This is what we tell kids. You are of no value to this world unless you work really, really hard for the next 10 years and do fucking really well in the big exams that we do at the end. Your whole next 10 years of your life, I don't care who you are, you need to fit into this system and do well in the test at the end. Otherwise, you will fucking fail at life.
A lot of the education is around, what cog are you going to be in the machine?
Exactly.
And it's like, you have a choice of cogs, but like,
Excuse me.
Freudian.
Excuse me.
I think we need the VAR on that. I think cogs, very close to cocks, very close.
He said cogs.
So kids, you got a choice of... No, anyway, I'm not going to reset that.
Right.
It was close. It was close, but on the replay.
He did.
Kids, you got a choice of
I
cogs.
can't wait to watch that back. Anyway, let's.
Oh, God.
So you got a choice of cogs.
Is it hot in here? Is the aircon on?
It went silent after he said it. It went silent after you said it.
Because I heard it, and I was looking at your
You
reaction.
went like that. I'm sure you went like that.
My fingers went into the seat. Oh, good.
Sorry.
But yeah,
sorry.
what job are you going to have, basically? And it's like, rather than the space to kind of explore more of your sort of passions and what you're interested in and play and creativity, a lot of the time people are sort of funneled into even thinking about a profession so early on. Yeah. I really like, there's a few people in kind of business world, they talk about how your 20s should just be about fucking about and experimenting, like working it all out.
Big time, baby. That's all I do in my 20s.
But I remember when I was like 21, 22, I was like, I need to have this figured out quick.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm an adult now. I was like, what am I going to do? I need to build a big business right now. Like, and it's going to be, and rather than like, I'll do a bit of work there and a bit of work there, and I want to learn this and learn that. I wasn't thinking about learning. I was thinking about doing straight away. I was thinking about what am I going to do? What's my career? Rather than thinking like, what do I want to learn? And I've only now recently, in like the last year, really had this like appetite for like learning, like come back. I've always had like a bit of a block around sort of education, I think, for those reasons we were just discussing. But yeah, I know. No, what are you thinking? We don't need to go back to that joke.
No, I'm not. I'm trying not to laugh, but look. I think if you look at the school system as well, right? And even if you look at like the organisations that we work with, right, a lot today, yeah. If you look at like the startup organisations that you might do work with, the main people that they're looking to employ, yeah. If you go into a startup, say to a founder, someone fresh out of college, right, or fresh out of school, ready to go into your job, what are you looking for to employ them, yeah? They'd say to you, wow, we need them to be disruptive, so you need to ask, like, difficult questions and look at things differently to everyone. You go, all right, cool, what else do they need? Well, they need to be good at grabbing attention because it's all about, getting our, voice out there and, building our brand and all that sort of stuff. And so there's two things, getting attention and being disruptive and asking difficult questions. That'll still get you thrown out of most classes at school.
Yeah.
So like it's all backwards at the moment, and I see it in particularly one of my kids now. He's gonna struggle at senior. He's gonna struggle because he can't sit still. He don't want to sit still for all day. And I think, mate, you got 5 years of hell coming because I know what it's like, And like every now and then I'll have a day where I've got to sit down pretty much all day and get shit done. And it kills me.
It's mental, isn't it?
Oh, it kills me.
Like
man.
this, it really is making. It's like, I'm thinking of, your child that you're talking about there. It's like it's so obvious. Like, it should be out in the woods, like,
yeah, man,
fishing or something. Like
Fishing in the woods,
fishing in the lake, in the stream, in the woods. You know what I mean?
It's true. He should be out doing like. Yeah. He should be out doing that because that's. that's who he is. Do you know what I mean? That's what he's. And it's no wonder to me, it's no wonder that some people grow up really struggling and feeling like they don't belong in the world, because we fucking spend loads of years teaching them they don't.
Yeah.
But then to play devil's advocate, is there to a degree, and this is just to wind you up a little bit, Josh, like, should they be in the system a little bit, because at that age you don't necessarily know the value of some of the things that are at the time a bit more boring. Like if I was at 10, 11, I would have spent all my time playing football, rugby, sports, which, don't get me wrong, yeah, I might have gone on to become a professional sports person, but I might not have developed some of those other skills at the time. I was like, this is boring, like, why am I doing this? That I have used, don't get me wrong, a lot of the stuff we do in school is not particularly useful.
What have you used though?
Also, when you're saying that, I was like, you would have loved to be a professional sportsman.
Yeah, I would have.
No, but what have you, like, don't get me wrong, right? I do think there is some, like, you know, I say to him, this is life, mate. Sometimes you got to sit through shit you don't want to sit through.
That's what you. I haven't done used any of the academic stuff, but I've learned some of those other skills.
Yeah,
like,
being in situations you don't like, pushing through it, getting shit done,
stuff as well.
all of that stuff. Yeah, I do think there's benefit in that. Like, and I think it's too far one way at the moment, especially with the internet now.
I think the thing you do get from the school is you do get the. You're learning about your emotions, you're learning communication, you're learning all of that stuff, because you're in a room with 20 people or whatever, and you got break time and you're out on the thing.
Yeah, but you'd learn that in rugby.
Yeah. I'm just saying it's something that does happen.
But in the rugby, you'd be likely surrounded by a similar group of people, same sort of mindset, maybe background. Whereas in the school, you've got backgrounds from everyone. Everyone's mixing.
Do you think school would have been better for you if you did, say, like, what did we used to do? 6 lessons a day? Say it's 6 lessons a day, 5 lessons a day.
Yeah.
You know, so if that was 25 a week, 25 lessons a week, you probably did rugby, you probably did sport in 3 or 4 of them a week. Maybe, yeah. Maybe even, let's say it's 5. Like, for somebody like yourself, wouldn't it have been better flipped on its head?
Yeah, definitely.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
20 lessons of sport and 5 lessons where you do all the grueling, boring shit.
Sport or art
or whatever, like, whatever it is for you. Like, I couldn't sit still in a lesson, so I would disrupt the lesson. For me, I think I shouldn't have been in there, because I'm fucking ruining it for the people that could be doing really well in there, that are academic, that do like to sit down and do it. I did well in drama, PE. Why? Because you fucking weren't sat still.
Yeah.
Like, all of the quote-unquote naughty kids do well in drama, because they don't have to sit still and they get to, like, mess about and play and be who they are. Do you know what I mean? And so, but I do think even now, you know, and it's probably controversial to say it, but I think we pathologize kids now if they can't sit still in a lesson.
What does pathologize mean?
Like, make the problem in them.
Right.
So we take a class of 30 kids and we go, wow, 20 can sit in here all right. Those 3 over there, they can't sit still. And then we don't go, maybe this isn't the right environment for them. We go, well, there must be fucking something wrong.
Yeah, because if you just think about flipping it, let's say those 3 can't sit still. Obviously, because they're maybe some more can than others, it's like, well, no, you've got to conform to this system. Whereas the other thing would be like, well, these guys aren't comfortable in this environment. So actually, everyone, let's get outside.
Yeah.
And let's all go and do the lesson outside. Do you remember when teachers used to do that occasionally? Oh my God, it was the best.
Big time.
And
So-
you're more engaged.
And this is another thing I say, yeah. When I go and deliver sessions at school, say I'm in working with a class, right, and I've got an hour. If I'm doing some emotional stuff, maybe it's like resilience stuff or whatever, yeah. If I start to think this is getting a bit heavy, I can see there's a few students in here, this is getting a bit too much, they're getting a bit restless, I can think, sod the rest of what I'm going to do. I know what these kids need now. I can feel it. I'm good. I'm intuitive. I know. Sod what I was going to deliver. I'm going to do.
TikTok handle.
I'm going to give him my TikTok handle and we're just going to go through my social media posts, right? I could fucking do that if I wanted. Yeah. Teachers can't, because their hands are tied behind their backs by making sure that they get all of the academic stuff in. In a world where there's the internet and you can Google everything, yeah, I think if you create healthy, emotionally healthy, wholesome spaces, I think the academic people will do really well as well. Because I just think they will, because they'll thrive under that environment. But we're still, I mean, school was set up, and this ain't a pop at schools because it's not their fault. But school was set up for the Industrial Revolution, right? To shoehorn everybody into becoming a really good worker.
Becoming the cog.
Yeah. Fucking, you got me when you did that. I didn't think I was going to recover for a minute.
I think it all comes back whether you want to be a farmer or a hunter, really.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right, lads. That's time.
Done?
Enjoyed
Thank
that
you
today,
very much.
mate. Very deep. Good
Yeah.
questions,
Good,
Rob.
great.
Well,
Yeah.
I
Question.
kind of wanted to ask that for a
Yeah.
while, and I've kind of always felt a little like uneasy, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna fucking throw it in there.
Yeah, good.
I'm glad.
Next
Good-
episode,
good
we'll
to
ask
get-
you it.
good to
Because I
get
noticed
triggered
you
again.
escaped that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you notice that?
I didn't know it's because I'm still dealing with the grief of the question.
And he's over there deciding which cock he's going to have.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Over and out.